What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got some more Entitled Parents stories for you. Entitled Mum brings her 4 kids to an adult-only wedding. I attended an adult-only wedding for a co-worker a few days ago. The actual ceremony was in a very small church, so it was mostly family and close friends, but the reception was for roughly 250 people. The reception was at a very elegant hotel ballroom, not child-friendly in any way. Crystal stemware, expensive linens on the table, etc. About half an hour into the reception, a commotion started that made everyone stare. Unsurprisingly, it was an entitled mother who was arguing with the wedding planner loudly. Now, me being the nosy broad that I am, inched closer to hear. Turns out, the entitled mother brought her 4 young children to the reception, even though the invitations clearly stated adults only. But this entitled mother insisted that her kids, I'm guessing at ages, but the oldest one looked 8ish and the youngest was under a year old, were super well behaved, so it was fine. Now, keep in mind, this was at around 7:30 PM. Okay, I'm sorry, but I just have to interrupt it. What sort of stupid mum would think that a baby, her kid under a year old, would be able to be well behaved at a wedding when it's 7:30 PM and they're probably tired? The wedding planner was having none of it. She insisted that children were not allowed and she had to leave. In a last-ditch effort to get admitted, the entitled mum shouted at the bride. The bride went over and listened to her for a moment and then said in a syrupy sweet voice, "Of course you can come, EM, but your children cannot." She turned on her heel and went back to her new husband. This entitled mum flipped a nut, yelling about how she was invited but she couldn't find a babysitter, etc. It took 3 of the groomsmen to escort her and her kids to the door. You know, I'm so glad that both the wedding planner and the bride just said no to this entitled parent. Too often in these stories, people are a little bit accommodating to people who are entitled and it just ruins their day, so I'm happy they said no. Let's be honest, on your wedding day, you wouldn't want 4 young children to be there if you said it was adults only. That is just ridiculous. Now, this story is potentially even crazier than the one before. Real life Karen loses it at Barbershop and doesn't understand modern technology. This happened to me this past weekend. I was in need of a haircut and decided to head out to my local national chain barbershop. As, like most people, I'm not a fan of lines, I did online check-in to put myself in the queue before I drove to the barbershop. You say like most people, but what people actually do like lines? What? The shop does not take appointments, just online and walk-in check-ins. Upon arrival, I notice I'm first in the queue. While looking for my name on the digital dashboard, I noticed a name 4 or 5 down the list that said Karen +2. Being a fan of this board, I quietly snickered at this. The online check-ins have a symbol next to their name. Karen's did not, but everyone in front of her did. I sit down and the only other person in the shop is a woman. Obviously, our literal Karen, sadly without the haircut that would have been perfect, and her 3 kids. There were no barbers available, but after a minute or 2, one became free, and as I was at the top of the queue, they called my name and I took my seat. But as I moved to take my seat, Karen, in pure Karen voice and fashion, shouted at the barber, "Excuse me, I was here first. My children need haircuts, so I should go next." The barber informed Karen that the queue fills with people who do digital check-ins and walk-ins in the order they are received, and you don't need to be present to take your place in the queue via digital check-in. Karen huffed and puffed a bit, but eventually sat down in anticipation that she would be next. Now, if that were the end of it, I probably wouldn't have bothered posting, but moments later, 2 of the remaining queue members who checked in digitally and were in front of Karen and her kids arrived and took their place. When the next barber called the digital queue member's name, Karen lost it and went on a full-scale rant. She ranted against modern technology, the lack of respect for working mothers, and the cherry on top, how customer service has changed for the worse in a world full of millennials who are always on their phone, making their lives easier, like, you know, checking in at the barbershop to save time. I love how just because she's behind in a queue, she rants against modern technology. That's brilliant. Karen proceeded to take her shaggy head brood and left. I asked the barber cutting my hair if that happened frequently, and she said more than you'd think with an eye roll. And that, my friends, is the story of how Karen's kids failed to receive a haircut because she doesn't understand technology. Okay, this is how to be a Karen in 4 steps. Number 1, my kids first. Number 2, I make the rules. 3, the millennials are to blame because I work hard. And 4, shriek like a banshee. Moving on to our final story. Entitled Mum hits my car and blames me for drunk driving. So a little backstory, I have a really nice grey Land Cruiser that looks like a monster truck and it costs a lot of money. Not because of the car itself, but mostly the parts inside of it. I live in a pretty good neighbourhood, but it happens to be right next to the most busy road in my area. Also, I was underage when it comes to drinking, so I have never had any alcohol in my life unless I was at church. Alright, let's start. So I get a message from my co-worker saying that there is a problem at work and I'd better come over. I work at a computer repair shop, so if there's a problem where they have to call me in, it's usually $100 or $1,000 problem that requires most hands on deck. So I get out of my house, get in my Land Cruiser and drive off in a bit of a rush. A few minutes pass and I'm about 3 miles away from work. I stop at a red light in this really busy intersection on the most busy effing road in the entire country. There are car crashes here almost every other day. One time it happened twice in one day, so it's no surprise that I got into one at this intersection. So the light turned green and I was in a rush, so I was well in front of the cars beside me. Then, just as I'm about to clear the intersection, a big red minivan T-bones me and we both go sliding in different directions. Me not as much because my car is much heavier than hers. I almost passed out because of the shock and I look out my window to see who dropped a missile strike to the right of my car. I get out of my car and it's in a pretty bad shape. There is a huge dent right next to the passenger side door and the glass is broken on the mirror. Luckily, nothing else that is visible. Enter Entitled Mum and her poor kid. What were you doing trying to drive ahead like that on a red light? You could have killed me or my baby in that crash. We have a very important birthday to go to. I'm sorry, but it was a green light for me, not for you, and I had the right of way. The entitled mother says in a quite accusatory tone, no, you didn't have the right of way. We had the right of way, not you. Alright, explain to me how you had the right of way. I don't have to explain to you, you drunk butthole. Once again, I'm underage, never drank in my life. Are you going to pay for my car or what? Her car, the red minivan, looks almost like the front of it was blown up, then rammed by 100 bulls and a couple wrecking balls. I'm honestly surprised that she and her son survived because the driver's seat headrest was impaled by a piece of metal. Wow. Satan is most likely protecting his hex spawn from any harm so she can be the biggest Karen this world has ever seen. That just put an amazing image into my head. So imagine you're down in hell with Satan and in front of him, surrounding him are just thousands and thousands of Karens, and he's just protecting every single one and allowing them up onto the surface of the earth one by one to just wreak havoc on normal people. And that is where entitled parents come from. Wouldn't that be amazing? In fact, that kind of reminds me of this piece of art that I got on Discord from David McLeod. It's just like loads of Karens in front of you and there's nothing you can do. Oh, and also if you're an artist or drawer of some sort and you want to have a go at some fan art, send it to me on Discord or Twitter and you may see it in a video very soon. No, you are going to pay for it along with the damage you did to my car. Now, this was the wrong thing to say. Excuse me, you drunk idiot. You honestly think I'm going to pay for your trashy butt truck that you and your drinking buddy probably pulled out of a trash pile? Yes, lady. Again, also wrong thing to say. How dare you treat me like that in front of my kid, you stupid POS? My darling should never be exposed to your potty mouth. Your mother probably left you for dead because you were the most ugly POS in the whole family of 20 kids. And the orphanage that you currently live in got tired of your bull crap, so they gave you $100 to go buy this POS lump of metal with wheels. Sorry, how do entitled people even think of sentences like that? What have I just read? At this point, I'm angry as heck. That is it. I'm calling the cops if someone hasn't already done so. Now this is where the poor kid gets involved. Mummy, please stop harassing him. He's done nothing wrong. He's done everything wrong. About 10 minutes later of yelling, 3 cop cars and an ambulance arrive. Excuse me, sir, what happened here? Well, It was horrible, officer. This man was drunk driving. Once again, I was clearly underage and ran a red light which was clearly visible and almost killed me and my baby. That is not true, officer. This woman is clearly lying to you. You can see that I'm sober. And there are a ton of witnesses to the accident and what ensued, and they can tell you that she is in the wrong. Well, I might as well check both of you and the security cameras. There were security cameras in the intersection that recorded everything. The entitled mum, clearly seeing that she was going to get caught. Oh, there's no need of doing that. We will just exchange info and... I'm sorry, mom, but it is required that I know what happened and which of you is in the wrong, so we will be watching the cam footage together. The police officer found the accident and saw that the entitled mum was clearly running running a red light, and she was speeding by at least 20 miles over the limit. The limit was 50. He then checks us both with the breathalyzer, and I'm completely sober, but she, I'm sorry I couldn't remember the exact number, was the equivalent of, and I'm quoting the police officer here, having both eyes closed and driving with your feet drunk. They even found a bottle of Jack Daniels in the passenger's side back seat, half empty. However, the best part is still to come. It turns out that she was never going to a birthday party. She was actually leaving the city. Oh, why you ask? Because turns out she had 3 pouches of cocaine worth maybe $2,000 in her trunk. Does it end there? No. She was packing heat, and quite a bit for my state. That's right, police found a loaded handgun and a 6-inch switchblade in the center console. Now combine all of that and you get $5,600 in repairs to my car and a couple thousand more or reprimands. 10.5 years in prison, 3 years on probation, and plenty of parenting classes. Not to mention the several $100 speeding tickets she received before they found the drugs and weapons. The poor kid was sent to his bloodfather, who actually divorced his mother because of the drugs and her alcoholism. Personally, I wouldn't even call that waste of human potential a mother. She brought her only son on a drug trafficking trip. Sorry that this story is a little long, I wanted to list every detail possible. My car is now fully repaired, and me and that police officer are good friends now and talk about this incident often. Thank you for reading. Well, thank you very much for posting. I genuinely feel very bad for this kid, like he even told her to stop, but I'm glad now that they're at their bloodfather's house. Anyway, that is the end of this one. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop a comment and leave a like, and I will see you all in the next video tomorrow.